Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Coach Victor with egelloC, here to present on a workshop called Creating a Career-Focused Summer, the Professional Growth that Colleges Notice. For those who don't know, colleges and admissions really care about if you are being intentional about the summer. The summer is like the perfect time to really be able to differentiate yourself from the rest. And so we're going to talk about how is it that we can plan it out to be the most successful. So today, what we're going to cover, we're going to design a career exploration summer that demonstrates your passion and commitment to your field. We're going to talk about the strategies to build that professional network as a high school student and how to transport your typical summer experiences into compelling narratives for your application. If this is your first time being able to hear one of my presentations, I'm Coach Victor again. And in terms of my background, I used to work at UC Berkeley's admissions office, where I went to different high schools to talk about the college admissions process and also taught a class on how to get into graduate school. And also, fun fact, I went to Berkeley for undergrad and graduate school on a full ride scholarship. So that being said, I know a thing or two about all these things. And also another fun fact, I did my research thesis or my master's thesis on workforce development for high school youth. So that being said, let's dig into it. And so first thing to think about is like work experience. They're not all created equal. Okay, there's different kind of phases to it, and a lot of people tend to skip around and don't realize that you might not be ready for a particular phase. So, for example, a lot of people always talk about internships. They think that you need to get an internship this summer, when in reality, you might not be ready for that. So, for starting off with phase one, you want to at least try to shadow somebody, being able to learn how does the job actually work so that you gain more awareness and also start developing your professional network. That helps you understand the field, so that way you can start thinking about what are the particular problems that you are interested in solving, and also what are the skills that are necessary to develop that. Once you've gone through that round of observing and talking to people in the field, that brings you into phase two, where you can do project-based learning. And within project-based learning, the goal is to be able to apply those particular skills that you've realized are important for the job, and to try to apply it to problems that you care about, and also what many people in that field might struggle with. That way, you can be able to show that you are delivering value. If you've been to one of my webinars before, one of the things that we talked about is value is a combination of your hard skills and your soft skills. And by doing a project-based learning, you're developing your hard skills in this case. And it's possible that maybe you already done this in your high school class, but the goal is to be intentional about what skill you're developing. Then that goes into phase three, the internship, where you can be able to create your own. The thing about an internship is that a lot of students or a lot of employers really don't want high school students as an intern. The reason for that is because there tends to be a lot of costs associated with them, that they have to pay attention to them, they have to worry about them, they have to like guide them every single step of the way. You want to be that intern where you are self-sufficient, that you don't necessarily need somebody to always tell you what to do. So the goal here is that once you've kind of done the shadowing, you've understand the landscape, you develop those skill sets, then you're able to apply it to that particular employer. And so by being able to demonstrate those skill sets, you can be able to be highly employable in this case. So remember to think about, if you haven't got to phase one yet, then that's the first thing that you want to try to prioritize. If you already kind of done some shadowing, you kind of done some research on what the job entails, then go into project base. And then once you're ready and you develop those skills, then it's the time to go to internship. So let's go into talking about a career-focused summer, okay? There's three parts to it. And so when it comes to it, first off, you want to understand, what are you really passionate about? What do you really care about, okay? The whole point about the admissions process is to understand and communicate to the admissions reader is that you are being very self-aware. You are very aware of your own interest and what is it that you want to learn later on in the future based off the activities that you are currently doing. So for example, if you are very much interested in engineering, the question I have as a reader is, how do you know you want to do engineering? Did you actually do anything related to that? Have you actually exposed yourself? And so for some students who are just like, oh, I just really love math, so I think engineering is the right major, that is setting yourself up for failure if you don't have any of these work experiences on your summer. So really be intentional about the thing that you care about. And that helps you also understand if this is something that you really do want to major in. Second part is the action. You're doing, creating, or contributing, and not just passively observing. So as I mentioned, right, are you able to show that you are taking initiative to learn more about that field? where you don't necessarily need to wait till college to really start learning about it. You're doing it right now based off your day-to-day activities. And lastly is relevance. Does it connect to your future goals or potential career path? So it's not just about doing any kind of passion project. The goal is to think about that passion project that is most relevant either to your major that you want to apply to or something that gives you a sense of what your career might be. Within the admissions process, you don't have to necessarily state that you want to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, or whatever it is. What you need to understand, though, is what exactly do you want to learn? And what about this school or this higher education can give you that learning? And so the relevance here, right, is being able to show how the experiences that you've gained up until this point have taught you about certain things that you care about and the things that you want to learn about next. And so that's the relevance piece. So let's talk about some examples of what these DIY projects might look like. If you were to create it by yourself, let's just say that you weren't able to get an internship this summer because it's already the summer right now in June, and you need to develop that project-based learning. So an example for medicine, right, is some typical ones we've seen, at least within our company, is that students like to start a health blog. They might talk about some issues they really care about. They volunteer at a clinic, and of course, it might be very difficult to get a volunteership. And so one of the strategies for being able to get a volunteer opportunity is to reach out to the small local clinics. You don't want to go for like the large hospitals like Kaiser because they tend to be very competitive. So think about your networks, your connections, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in terms of how to develop that. That's where usually you can be able to get that opportunity. And also interview local healthcare workers, right? This is the discovery, right? If you're not able to really shadow in the medical workplace, right, because that is really difficult to be able to attain, you probably know somebody who works in the healthcare field. So you could be able to just talk to them. And so one strategy we'll talk about later is informational interviews, which we'll cover. And so this is an example of something to help you gain awareness about what about the healthcare field that you really care about. Because I'm sure many folks might know, if you want to study medicine, there's tons of different kinds of specialties that you can go into. You know, there's like cardiology, where it's the study of the heart, and OBGYN. So there's lots of different types of health scenes that you could be able to look into. And so that's why interviewing would be very valuable here. And also some other things I forgot to add into here too is doing research. So for example, being able to work with a professor at your local college to be able to produce a research paper about a particular health issue that you really care about. So next, let's go into law. So when it comes to law, some students, what they've done is that they joined a mock trial program, they read landmark court cases, and they shadow a public defender. So these are things that might be a little bit difficult, but what it does is that it shows that you really are taking initiative. Because when it comes to like pre-law, you know, you're not studying to applying to go into law school right away, but you might be studying something like psychology or sociology or political science and all these other things. And so the goal is to be able to showcase what exactly are you doing right now and how has it taught you like this major might be the right one for yourself. So for example, just by being able to go through a mock trial program that talks a lot about like politics or political science, the way to be able to see how to view certain issues in particular ways and debating that. And so that can give students the experience to understand like, oh, I really like to debate and also talk about like what is the fundamental rights or laws that should be put into place. And by being able to participate in that, you're showing that you're taking a little bit of a sample of that. Next is business. So when it comes to business, the most typical way is to start a business, right? A lot of students are selling products. They are trying to sell a digital product, build a website. They get into marketing. They get into product, and so starting a business is one of the quickest ways to be able to show that you really want to learn business fundamentals. Some students, they've started like a t-shirt company where they go to a screen printer and print a lot and then sell it to their peers. Some, they purchase a whole bunch of like large candy bags from like Costco and then they distribute it to their own like friends and they have everyone sell it. Or some people do like a reselling business where they sell shoes or they sell like their old clothes. Those are all perfect examples of what a business might look like. Of course, you don't necessarily need to start like a like an official business license or anything of that sort. It's not expected that you should be doing that. And also, same goes for people who think that you have to start a nonprofit. Getting a 501c3 or starting a comp or organization like that is not necessary in order to get into these top colleges. The goal is to focus about the learnings from it as opposed to the actual like actions related or the official like certifications don't really matter as much. And then lastly is to offer a service in your community. So it's not just about selling a product, but what exactly can you give to others? Like, for example, mowing lawns, being able to do chores around the house, being able to, do eyelashing like appointments. Those are all other examples of services that you can provide to somebody. And so those are all great examples of business. It doesn't matter about what exactly do you sell. It matters more so that you started that process and you iterated it on that process. Okay, next part is engineering, which is essentially just building anything. So you can build things via code. You can build things that are like physical products. I think that goes into tech, actually. These are very similar here. So whether that's software or hardware, you can just be able to build anything from scratch that you care about. Make sure that you document the process throughout the entire time. And what other students have done with us is that they create a website, they try to put some type of product there or build some type of open application that people can be able to download, and they release it. And the goal is to show that you actually have an impact too. If you can confidently say that you built an app that's uploaded onto the App Store and there are more than 10,000 downloads to it, right? That shows that you're creating some type of impact on your community because you built something that's useful for 10,000 people. And that is an example of being able to talk about your results. And lastly, contributing to open source projects. There's tons of open source projects on like GitHub that people are sharing with each other to be able to build new technology that could be useful for other things. So these are just a few examples, right? It's not limited to just this. And also the goal is to find something that is unique to yourself. And so you want to align the interests of your passions and also the kind of skill sets that you want to develop at the same time. And so an easy way to kind of figure out like what to do for the summer is just think about just find a problem, right? Find a problem that you really care about, something that you find as a challenge, whether it's about something is inefficient in the ways that you are doing some type of process, or there is some type of challenge that a particular group that you care about, like let's say senior citizens have trouble being able to connect with their like loved ones, or I think the best way to kind of think about the problem is who is your user? And usually the main user that you're trying to solve for is yourself. So if you can identify like who are you as a user, how would you describe your persona? That can give you an idea about your population that you're trying to serve. Then you figure out, you learn how to solve it. So you do your own research, you do your own due diligence, right? And I'm sure many other people have tried to solve this problem in the past. And so the goal is to be able to learn the skill sets and the solutions that people have built before. So that way you can be able to figure out how is it that you want to particularly solve this particular problem. Then you document how you solved it. So once you have like taken note of it, add it to your portfolio, and be able to think about what is it that put it into a document that you can be able to use later on for your personal statements. Then from there, that is something that you can utilize later on. And then you systemize your process, being able to figure out how to replicate it for future iterations. And then you share your discoveries out to the public, where this is where you could allow people to be able to take the results of your project and to be able to build it for themselves as well. The goal is to just think about that problem that you care about and solve it, and then share it out to the world. So this is essentially like what it's like to like just build a business essentially. And so just by being able to build a business off any type of problem that you care about, that is going to be really huge, at least in the college admissions process. So let's try to take an example, right? If you there's a few folks here that are listening to the webinar. Out of curiosity, for those who are listening, share a career interest in the chat. Let's talk through like a particular problem, and let's think about what is one particular interest or career interest that you might have that you need support on, either developing that passion project or personal project, or what to do with it for the summer. So we'll take it as an example if anyone wants to add. So take a quick minute here. Business. Okay. So let's take that business example. And so the goal is to think about the next part, which part of business, right? Business can be as a skill that can be applied to a lot of different fields. So the goal is to think about a domain that you really care about. So what is a particular problem that you might be interested in exploring a little bit more? And this might be hard because I noticed that someone is typing also through their iPhone. So just to kind of like take it a step further, right? Once you identify what particular field that you're trying to go into, then you want to think about the domain or the problem that you want to apply this skill into. And then based on that, right, that's where you are able to find your niche in terms of what you are really valuing. And that is, if you ask yourself, why is it that you care about this particular thing? You can ask yourself the 5 whys. Why is it that you're interested in this? Why is it that that matters to you? And then you get to your values. So taking a quick example, like let's just say you are trying to build a business on like keyboards, right? Someone really loves to build keyboards and share it with others. Why is it that you're interested in building keyboards? Well, it's because I really like the aesthetics of it. I really like to type on it. Why is it that you like to type on it or like to like the aesthetics of it? Well, because it gives me like a peace of mind. It's pretty therapeutic to be able to type down on these really aesthetic keyboards, and they have a very nice feeling to it. And why is that important to you? Because we are typing almost all times of the day, and the typing process should be enjoyable to everybody. So that's an example of just being able to dig deep into why are those things really important to you? So that way you can show that this is a important problem to solve for multiple folks. Okay, so let's kind of transition here. Let's go into about building that professional network in high school and how to create those connections so that way you can ensure you have future job prospects for yourself or internships or whatever that might be. So your professional network is more valuable than any resume that you develop for yourself. You want to work smarter, not harder. And what I mean by that is you can invest so much time into your LinkedIn profile or your resume and try to make it look very beautiful, but it doesn't really matter if you're not actually sharing that to the right people. Your network is where you're able to identify new opportunities for yourself, whether that's being able to get a mentor, being able to get a job, or being able to find your next like step in your growth process. So the first people that you want to reach out to that you might not think of is first your family or your friends or your neighbors. There are tons of people who are in a part of your network right now that you could take advantage of. And even if there is a group of people that you're trying to connect to, but you don't know anyone directly, let's say you're interested in the medical field, but you don't have any medical professionals in your family. That is where you might have a friend or a family that knows somebody that is in the medical field. And that's how you can be able to bridge that gap by asking them to create an introduction for you. Another thing is the alumni from your school. If you go into LinkedIn, there are tons of people who actually list down their high school. And you could be able to connect to those alumni. And a lot of alumni are more than willing to be able to support you just because you have like a common ground. Local professionals list on LinkedIn, which I'll cover in a bit in terms of how to be able to use LinkedIn, and also professors or grad schools at nearby colleges. So we usually within the education space, right? A lot of these places are very open to talking to high school students because they know that high school students are still very much learning. And especially in these education institutions, that's their goal. They're trying to train the next generation to be able to like run the economy or run the next like businesses. So this is an example of where LinkedIn can come into play, where you have first, second, and third connections. Your first connections are the people that you are directly connected with. These might be your mom, your dad, your friends, or your peers, and they can connect you to the second level connections. These are the people who you are interested in getting more knowledge from, and they're not directly into your network. And it's possible that those people are also connected to these third level connections that can even give you more value. So just to kind of show you about how LinkedIn works, and if you're in high school, I highly encourage folks to already create a LinkedIn. But essentially in LinkedIn, there is a ability to search, right, what particular fields or companies for things that you're interested for places that you might work at that you're interested in. So if you notice, if I just search up teacher and if I look up first connections, I'm looking at all the people who I know directly that is currently a teacher or has worked as a teacher. And also, let's just say if I don't know anybody, then I can go to my second connections. And something I'll notice is that these people are connected to a mutual friend of mine in my network. And I can reach out to these individuals here to be able to connect with them. And it's not just about the roles, but also the company as well. So let's just say you want to work at a company like LinkedIn, right? If I looked up at LinkedIn, then I know that there's tons of people here that I can potentially reach out to who currently work there. And if I don't have anyone yet, then that's where I go to my second connections. So the goal is to be able to try to find out where's the common ground with the person that you're trying to connect with. And if you connect well with this person, they could potentially be the one to create a job opportunity for you. So this is a quick example, right? Where I reached out to one of my first connections a long time ago to be able to, my goal back in the day was to try to work at LinkedIn. So this is actually a direct example that I did. And so I reached out to one of my peers. This is somebody who went to school with me at Berkeley. And what I did in this message was I tried to remind him like, hey, this is how we met. I talked about like why I'm reaching out to them. And during this time, this is where my company was experiencing layoffs. And I was trying to figure out a way how to like get a referral or get an interview at LinkedIn. And so that's where I asked if I can hop on a quick Zoom with them and have a quick chat to see how is it that they broke into LinkedIn. Based on that, I did have a conversation with them for about 30 minutes. And based on that connection, they actually connected me to another person named Baron. And Baron was able to give me insight about what it was like to work in the strategy and operations department. Even though Josh Park here used to work at LinkedIn, he was in product operations, which is different from product management from what I did before. And so by talking to a product manager in the strategy and operations department, that gave me a better leg in to be able to create a connection to understand how their company works, what their problems are, and how to stand out in the process of getting interviewed. And so from there, Baron was referred me through his connections through LinkedIn, and I was able to apply directly to their team. And then I would have the recruiter be able to be the first to review my resume. During that time, it didn't necessarily go out, though I wasn't necessarily trying to pursue this even further. There was other opportunities that I considered it instead. And so, but at the very least, this gave me a leg up in the recruitment process because a recruiter that was working specifically for the strategy and operations department was able to look at my resume. So to kind of teach folks about how to take advantage of these networking connections, the goal is to develop the skill set in informational interviews. Within informational interviews, it's not you going through a typical interview process where they try to evaluate if you're good for a particular role. You flip the script. Instead, you're trying to interview the other person to learn more about their background and their interests in their field, and it gives you more insight about how the industry works. And so here, first off, you want to identify the right person that you want to talk to. Find the person in that field of interest, and also somebody that isn't like too senior where they're like, in a director level position or they're like the president or CEO. You want to talk to someone who might be at the same level of professional growth as you or career as you. So usually you might want to go to like, if you're especially in your high school, you want to go for like an entry level person, somebody that is new to the workforce as well, because they're more likely to talk to you as a high school student. The reason why you don't want to go all the way further up in the chain is because if they see that someone is a high school student trying to connect with them, they're not likely to respond. And so that's going to be your second or third connection. If you're able to connect with just one of them at the like entry level, then they can introduce you to the upper level management, and that upper level management might be the one to create that job for you. So you have to be strategic here, right? Don't just like randomly email like a whole bunch of like CEOs or presidents. You want to email the people who are more likely have time and can get you that relationship in. And that's very similar to what I did here, right? The first connection is the person who I knew. And even though they weren't working in the role that I really cared about, they were still able to connect me with that second connection. All right. Next is to reach out professionally. So just giving them a brief intro of who you are and why you're reaching out, very similarly to what I did, and asking for a quick like 15 to 20-minute chat over Zoom or a phone call to be able to connect even further. I highly recommend doing it over Zoom because you wanted that face-to-face interaction, because you want to build a relationship with this person. Something to think about is you don't want to be transactional in this process. And what I mean by transactional is that you're just going to them for a favor. You're not doing it just for that, but you want to develop like a meaningful connection where they might want to invest into you. This is where I think high school students tend to have the most difficult challenge, where you are asking people in like a kind of a Q&A format. Okay, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. But the reality of the case is you want to come in and have a normal conversation just like a human. So that's something that we'll talk about in just a bit, about how to kind of show that engagement. And so you can use email or LinkedIn or get a referral to be able to try to connect with that person. And then let's just say they are able to agree and they are willing to chat with you on the phone or Zoom. Then you want to do your homework of doing research. You want to learn more about their background and prepare some questions that you can ask. The thing is, you don't want to ask questions that you can already find online. Like, don't just go in there and ask like, hey, how many years or how many months have you worked at this role? Or the very surface level questions, because your questions also reflect your level of preparation and also how professional that you are coming across. If you come across with just like very basic questions, or that you're very nervous or you haven't practiced or rehearsed, then they might not necessarily feel like you are a consideration or a good fit to even be like an intern or to work with even further. The goal is to impress them and to create a strong impression. And you do that by coming very prepared and about what exactly is it that you want to get out of this conversation. Next is planning of questions. So some examples that you can ask, which gets a little bit deeper, is how did you get started in your career, right? Being able to keep it open-ended and understand what their pathway was, because in that pathway, that gives you a better sense and understanding of what can you do if you wanted to do the exact same thing as them. If you're talking to someone who's in your dream job or even your dream company, then that gives you a lot of insight about, okay, what do I need to copy in order to get to the same level as you? And this is the lessons that you can gain in a short amount of time. And this is why informational interviews are so powerful in comparison to taking a class. Some students' natural inclination to learn more about a field is to take a community college class on it, which makes sense. You know, it's totally fine. But at the same time, that's like 3-4 months worth of classes. And is that really worth your time to do that when you could just have a simple conversation within 15 to 30 minutes to learn that right away? So the frequency of your learning happens more through informational interviews. Another question is, who do you enjoy? What do you enjoy the most about your work? And this can give you a better sense whether if your interests are aligned with this particular role. If you are self-aware about the things that make you happy, the things that bring you fulfillment, then you can kind of see if these roles might have that similarity there. What's one thing that you wish you had done earlier? Being able to get a sense about like if they had any regrets, any things that are life advice that you could be able to look out for. The best way to be able to learn from someone is someone who did it themselves, right? And you don't want to create the same mistakes that they've done. What advice would you give to a student interested in your field? So that way you can be able to get a better sense of what do you need to study, what do you need to do as a personal skilled project, and are there any summer experiences that you recommend? This is where it can actually lead to a very interesting conversation, because it could be the case where they might have an opening or they might be able to create something for you. And you won't know if that opportunity exists unless you ask. You don't want to ask directly, like, hey, can you make me an intern? Like, maybe you could if you have really great rapport with them, but you want to kind of keep it open-ended because you want them on your side. If you ask them directly of like, hey, can you hire me as an intern? Then you are putting yourself on the opposite side of the table as them, because they are the ones that say yes, no, or maybe, and they are like the gatekeeper. You don't want them to be your gatekeeper. You want them to be on your team. And you make them on your team by asking an open-ended question of like, are there any summer experiences you recommend? Because they will think about this problem with you. If you talk about a problem like saying like, hey, like I'm really struggling right now because I really want to gain work experience within this field, but I don't know where to get started. What do you recommend? And that's where they will ideate with you about some potential plans. And one of those plans could be that they create an opportunity for you, or that they introduce you to someone who could do that for you. Next is to be grateful and engaged. So throughout at the very end or throughout this entire time, making sure that communication is such an important skill. I mean, it's something that everybody can always improve in, including myself. And the thing is, you just don't want it to be an awkward conversation, right? You don't want it to be like again, like a Q&A format, or that you are like feeling as if this, and if you're not smiling or not showing that you're engaged, then then you might feel like you're wasting their time. And also be respectful of their time limit. If you mention a 15-minute conversation, try to keep it at 15 minutes. And if it does get to that time, then ask them if they have additional time they're willing to stay and talk to you. And lastly, follow up with an email saying thank you. And within that email, mention that one takeaway that you're getting from the conversation and that you hope to keep in touch. This is a way for you to be able to maintain that connection long term. And if you're on LinkedIn, then you can add them as a connection. All right. So now that we talked about how to get that experience, right, and through informational interviews, the next part is, once you've gained that experience, how do you talk about it within the application process? So when it comes to admission officers, what we care about is, what did you do, why did it matter, and how did it shape your perspective, right? This is very similar to what I've told families in the past, right? That the admission readers want to know, why do you want to go to college? What is it exactly you want to study? And how do you know that based off what you're currently doing? And the how do you know that's what you want to do, or as a major or as a study, that comes from the summer experiences that you're trying to communicate here. And so we talked about this before, which is the STAR framework. As a quick reminder to those who don't know, this is a way to be able to plan out for your interviews, and also within the way that you write your applications. So first off, you start with the situation. What was the context of where you were working? Task, what challenges or goals were you working on? Action, what did you do? And the result and reflection, what happened and what did you learn from it? The what did you learn from it is probably the most important part, because this is you trying to demonstrate that you are very passionate or interested about this particular field, and that by going to this particular college, it will give you the skills and experiences necessary to advance your particular goals. And really, so the thing that majority of students do as a common mistake is that they might focus too much on the situation. The situation is like the context of where exactly are you working at. You don't need to explain like the company's mission and everything that they typically do, because we're not trying to accept the company into college, right? We're trying to accept you as an individual. You can give a quick one sentence clarification about where is it that you're working and what's their mission, and then go directly into the task, action, and the result. So we're going to do a few examples together just so that people have a better understanding of what this actually looks like. So let's start off with working in tech, and like particularly with like AI and mental health as an example. So the situation that you might be putting here is that you are experimenting with AI tools because you're curious about, and you're also curious about mental health issues in teens. So and because of that interest, what you did for yourself was that you built a chatbot to help teens check in with their emotions. This is actually really common nowadays, where a lot of companies are discovering like mental health support or services through like chatbots. And this ties directly to what's actually out there in the field as well. And imagine if you were able to just show this particular interest or this particular task that not a lot of people would have at all. Like that shows a different level of like maturity in your career preparation. And then from there, the action that you did was that you reach out to a counselor you found on LinkedIn for feedback on the tone and language, and she helped you make it feel supportive and not clinical. So what this is showing is that you are iterating on your particular project or your product. It's not the fact that you just built the chatbot to support teens, but you actually tested it in the field. You gave it to a counselor to be able to review like how did it work for them, to make sure that it was like on the it was acceptable as like a support. And also another way to check this is to test this out with teenagers as well, get their feedback and see how well did it go. And then from there, you launch a demo and had 30 students use it over the summer, and you're now improving it based on your feedback. So here, again, what we're showing is this step-by-step process of what do you care about? What is it that you wanted to do? And then the specific actions that you took to do to get there. And then what did you learn from there? And then I would also like reflect this on even more to say like, how does this tie to what you want to learn later in college or your career? A lot of people in their personal statements or their personal insight questions, something they always tend to forget is like the future aspect. I always talk about like past, present, future. The past is usually like the situation, right? And the present is your actions of what you're doing right now. And then the future is like from this result that you've done, like how does it teach you what you want to do later on in life? All right, next is like a business and sustainable clothing. So the situation here is that you have an interest in thrifting and fashion, and also at the same time you care about sustainability. Remember that you want to be, the way to be unique here is think about the different varying interests and combining it all together. There's a lot of students who are going to love business. There are a lot of students who are going to love engineering, but there's only so many people that love business and to talk about sustainable clothing in one particular area. So that is a very niche area of interest, and you want to figure out what is your niche based off of what your interests are. Then you go into the task. You wanted to turn something bigger through a secondhand clothing pop-up. And then from the action there, you're able to interview a local boutique owner for tips on pricing and setup. She reviewed my budget and suggested ways to attract customers. So the cool thing about this, right, is that this student is showing that they are trying to take initiative and trying to start their own business from scratch. And generally speaking, like who actually knows how to create a business, right? Not many people, not many students. But the very first way to start, right, is talking to somebody, talking to another business owner for the tips on that. And by being able to have that conversation in 30 minutes or maybe an hour, you have some place to start. And so you get that information and you're showing that you're taking initiative and you're testing it out yourself. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. The fact is that you tried. And here the result might be that you ran 2 pop-ups and you sold 40 pieces and you donated the profits included and on your college apps as like a social impact project. So this here, right, ties into your interest in like sustainability and also practicing the skill sets of business. All right. Next is medicine and health literacy. So situation here, you notice that your immigrant parents struggle to understand their prescriptions. And because of that, your task was to create a simple health translation guide for non-English speakers. And so from there, in order to do that, you reach out to a medical student through the summer webinar, and you ask them to fact check it and also explain how to organize medical terms clearly. So what this is showing is that you have this particular interest in health, and you notice that the issue, right, the challenge is that the difficulty for people to understand. So it shows that you're critically thinking, you're trying to problem solve something that is really real. And then from there, you're demonstrating your initiative by reaching out to a medical school student to fact check your information that you built. And not many students will actually do that. And then the result of it is you printed 50 copies, share them to a local clinic, and the doctor has offered to keep distributing it. So again, your impact doesn't necessarily need to be huge. The impact, the real thing that people are most interested in is what is your step-by-step process about what is it you cared about, what did you do about it, and why is it that this is so important to you. The more that you can be more self-aware throughout this entire application process, the more competitive and beneficial that will be. Okay, let's talk about next about the last one, which is engineering DIY prosthetics. So the situation here is that you're really fascinated by low-cost 3D printed prosthetics. And your task that you given yourself was to design your own using a home printer and open source files. So this is you like trying to be able to create something on like AutoCAD or something of that sort. And one of the actions that you did was that you reached out to a college engineering student that you met on Reddit to review your CAD design and help you troubleshoot. So again, this shows like you had an initial interest about some particular skill set that you really like to do, and also prosthetics, which is a very niche kind of thing that you can print. You challenge yourself to build it, and then also you fact checked it or worked on it with somebody else to iterate on that process. And the result of that, you printed a working prototype, shared with online community maker community for feedback, and it's now part of your engineering portfolio. So there's a lot of like 3D printing communities online. And by being able to share it, you can also take note of how many downloads that it had, how many views. And also there's a lot of like engineering or 3D printing like design contests online that you can participate in as well. So again, you're trying to be able to share it with the community that you care about. All right. So I hope that was helpful to folks in terms of how to communicate your summer projects or your you taking initiative. And it doesn't have to just relate to summer, right? This can be anything relating to any of your activities that you've done throughout the year. So let's go lastly into the resource and next steps. If you want the notes and the replay for this particular webinar, text notes or replay to 949-704-6950. And if you want a free 4-step student networking guide, which we created, you can just text network guide to the same number. This is where, oh, actually, I realized this is the wrong number. Sorry, give me one quick second. Wrong number here. So the number here is, that's not the right number. What is it? Oh, okay. Sorry, 775-949. Okay, this is the right number to text. 949-775-0865. And then if you want that networking starter guide, then text the same number, a network guide. This will give you a little bit of a worksheet to work off of and identify who are your top people that you can connect with first. And if you want to get a free 15-minute coaching session, maybe this is your first time joining one of our webinars, welcome. We are egelloC, and we are coaches that used to work in the admissions space. And so because of that, we are giving free advice to everybody and all families about what exactly you can do to maximize your college admission chances. So similarly to what we talked about today, we will give you a strategy on how to maximize your chances through what we call the 3 A's, the application, the academics, and the activities. So that is a totally free session there. Okay, awesome. And so we're going to the last part, which is Q&A. So curious if folks here had any questions about anything that we covered so far. Okay, I know I have a few folks here on the attendees. All right, going once, going twice. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming through, and looking forward to being able to support folks in my office hours. If you're interested in coming through, that's on Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. All right, take care everyone, and have a good rest of the night.